Okay, so here is the next Ableton video that I wanted to post, which is about, it's a very basic tutorial on recording live instruments. So what we're going to be recording today is guitar. So for those of you who are new to that, of course the guitar will be connected to the audio interface. You'll need an audio interface, obviously. The guitar is connected to the audio interface by a 1/4-inch cable. And then the audio interface is connected to the computer. So that's how we are able to get the sound from the guitar into the computer to be used in whatever DAW that we're using, but in this case, obviously, it is Ableton. So what do I need to do to get this together? Well, first of all, what I want to do is I'm going to go up here to my preferences in Live. So I'll click Live, drag down the preferences, and I want to open this up and get a couple things squared away here before I get started. So by default, you know, your preferences might open in some other window, but we need to be in audio. So under audio devices here, we're going to see audio input device, and we want to set that up so that it corresponds, or it's the name of the audio interface that we're using. So in my case, I'm using the Scarlett 2i2, so that's what's listed here. You're going to see a number of things possibly. So just make sure that this audio input device is set to your audio interface. As far as the output is concerned, you know, this is going to be your external speakers, your internal speakers, you know, headphones, whatever you're using. In my case, since I'm recording this screen, I've set up this screen audio, screen record. So I'm running through that. But of course, you're going to use whatever that you have available and make sure that's set up how you want it. The other thing here that I want to talk about is, you know, a couple down here, we will see latency. Because when you are recording a live instrument, you will probably run into some latency. Like, let's say when I'm recording guitar, if I put on my metronome, I'm going to play along with that metronome, but there will be so much latency latency betbetween the guitar, you know, between what I play and what I actually hear in Ableton, that it just becomes completely, you know, it's basically impossible to be able to record anything and make it sound good. So to solve that, what we'll do is come here to latency and buffer size, and we'll need to change that. Now by default, mine was set to 512, and that was giving me too much, that was a lot of latency actually. 256 was still a little bit too much latency, and I settled on 128. Now, of course, your computer may be different, and you might need to use fewer samples, or maybe you can get away with more, 512 or more. So it takes a little experimentation on your part the first time you use this to see what works best for you. So I'll get that set up at 128 samples for buffer size, and of course, just to reiterate, I set my audio input device to the audio interface that I'm using. Now, what I want to do is get into Ableton itself. Now, in other DAWs, what you'll notice is that if you click here, not all others, but a lot of other DAWs, if you click on a track, it's ready for recording. Well, that's not so in Ableton. So if I click here, I want to put my audio on this third track. We'll see audio here. What I need to do is I need to make sure that this I arm the recording on this track, or if you might consider, might call it a record enable button. So I'm going to click this and make sure that it's red. Before I play the guitar though, I want to make sure, because if I play it now, you know, we can see the level here. So it's getting the signal, but I can't hear anything. So what I need to do is, we'll see here, you see where it says off. We need to make sure that it says either in or auto, because when we do that, then that will turn on the monitor so that we can actually hear what we're doing. See, there we go. And we can see it over here as well. So we see that level. So now let's record this and see what it sounds like. So I'm going to go ahead over here, turn on my metronome, and I'm going to drag down this tempo to 80, and make sure and just, I hit stop typically because that'll take the playhead back to the beginning. And so I'll just make sure that it's there so I'm not recording somewhere in the middle of the track. So now let's give it a try. Okay, so now we have something there recorded. And we can see by the waveform here. If I double click on that, of course, we can see it at the bottom of the screen, and we'll be able to, do a few things with it. Over here, you'll see transpose. I'm not going to really do much with that today, but I just want to give you a warning that you can record stuff here and transpose it, but just don't go too far if you want it to sound natural. The further you go away from the original recording within this transpose, then the bigger possibility you'll have of it sounding too affected, too electronic, and then it's just not going to be convincing anymore. So just be careful with that. But that is a possibility if that's something that you might look into. So we've recorded here. I'm going to give myself a loop, and I'll move where this is so I can loop that specific spot. And now, I can do various things like, let's say I want to add a compressor to this. So I'm going to click here and just drag it to the track that I'm working with. And you'll see my compressor is down here at the bottom of the screen. Let's say I want to work with a flanger. I'll do the same thing. You get the idea here. Whatever you need here, if you want it to be specific to that track, you'll just click and drag it to that track. For instance, this 8-band EQ here, same thing. If I drag it to the track, it'll only affect that track when I'm playing back. So I'm going to play this a little bit with the loop, and we're going to hear what's going on here. Oh, you can really hear that flange. Of course, I can turn that flange off, and we'll hear only the compressor and the EQ. Now, one thing with the EQ that I want to mention is by default, you only have 4 bands that are turned on. What you have to do is click on these little boxes here, and you can turn on up to 8. So you get the EQ 8 in full, and then you can do what you need to do. So you can play this, you raise the low end a little, whatever we need to do here. And you'll notice that when I'm moving this around, the dials are also moving. So you don't necessarily have to click and drag on those little numbered circles. You can work with the dials as well. It's up to you. Compressor, it's the same idea. So you're going to be working with all of that as well. So with that in mind, there's your basic tutorial to start working with live instruments. And I hope this worked out well for you, and I'll be posting another video soon.